The western parts of North America are full of charming stadiums that no one outside of locals pay much attention to. We're talking unique, truly awesome outdoor sporting facilities hosting teams and events of all shapes and sizes. Now, if you're farting around on Google Maps and cross-referencing that with research on Wikipedia, you may dismiss these venues as being too old, too small, too weirdly shaped, too decrepit, too this, too that, a case of the terrible twos. The thing is, to the uneducated, Michelangelo's David is nothing but smut. Sure, none of these stadiums are going to win a beauty pageant or an innovation contest anytime soon, but what these facilities do possess is that independent spirit of the West. A we're going to do what we need to do attitude. In some cases, these stadiums, of which the greater public mostly ignores, is preserving a history of both sports and the region itself. In other cases, they're looking to what is and what will be here. Without further ado, we are looking at 11 of the forgotten, truly awesome stadiums of the West, y'all. We're starting in a place I'm fairly certain no one has ever started before, that being Hokum, Washington. Situated due west of Daniel Bryan's hometown of Aberdeen, Washington.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Hokum may be smaller than its neighbor, but it dreamed extraordinarily big when developing Hokum Olympic Stadium, which was a project built under the Great Depression era Works Progress Administration, or WPA. Today, it is best known for being home to the largest and best preserved wooden grandstand in all of America, according to the National Register of Historic Places. It is truly a representation of the local logging industry and has preserved as one of only a handful of wood stadiums to still be in operation across the United States and Canada. From the sky, the multi-purpose venue looks like a big J. The setup for both football / soccer and baseball isn't exactly what you would expect though. For baseball, that big grandstand runs from behind home plate, well, slightly on the other side, that's where you get the curve of the J, all the way around the center field. For football, the grandstand is behind one end zone and then runs along a sideline. In addition to hosting high school football, baseball, and soccer, the venue has seen a number of minor league baseball clubs roll through it during the years. Heck, Bill Murray even spent the summer here playing for one. However, Hokum Olympic Stadium's biggest event just might be Loggers Play Day. The huge showcase of logging sports gives you all of the chopping, log rolling, and axe throwing you can handle in a fairly large wooden stadium. It's extraordinarily fitting for this part of Washington, and honestly, it does look like kind of a good time. Then again, in the 90s as a kid, I would watch all of those logging competitions on ESPN2. Hokum Olympic Stadium did survive a fire scare in 2022 as it was undergoing renovation. Thankfully, fire officials were on scene to put it out and no real damage was done. If you would like to know more about the baseball history of Hokum Olympic Stadium, there is a great article from Northwest Baseball. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Let's keep that wood up, shall we? I don't think I know what I'm saying here. Just don't worry about it. Our next stadium is Kiger Stadium in Klamath Falls, and it is another one of America's few remaining all-wood facilities. Opened in 1948, it is one of a few remnants remaining from the good old Far West League. That was the region's very own Class D minor league baseball setup. It was pretty cool. They had some teams in really random places, and it was just a sign of that post-World War II America. The Far West League may not have lasted long, but good old Kiger Stadium has withstood the test of time. Although back in the day, it was then known as Gym Stadium, whatever you want to call it. It was purchased by the city of Klamath Falls in the 1950s. They have kept care of it without any splashy renovations or opting to tear the entire thing down, although it has come close to that on a few occasions. Personally though, when you look at Kiger Stadium, it is like stepping into a baseball time machine. Yeah, there's a little dry rot and some obstructed views, but that was baseball in America in the late 40s and 1950s. This is far more of a field of dreams than that cornfield in Iowa, which is really just a movie prop. If you build it, they will come. That's Kiger Stadium or Gym Stadium, whatever you want to call it, in Klamath Falls, Oregon. They built the stadium, and baseball of all shapes, sizes, and levels has come for more than 7 decades now. If you find yourself in Klamath Falls, Oregon and head south on Highway 97, that merges into Interstate 5 and you keep going down south on that, eventually you find your way to Redding, California, which is where our next stadium is, and that is Tiger Field. Yes, a 1-letter difference, Kiger, Tiger. That's not important though. What is important is that they've been playing baseball on this site in Reading since 1923. What was back then is pretty noticeably different than what stands today, and that is because a renovation at Kiger Field saw it absorb another baseball stadium. So in 2013-2014, the remnants of Travis Credit Union Field in Vacaville were purchased and shipped up north, preserving this very historic ballpark. Honestly, you could argue that it was saved from extinction because Kiger Field around that time wasn't in a good way. You can certainly see a few aspects of Travis Credit Union Field in today's Kiger Field. It's not a like for like, but you can see there's just remnants of it about. There's no mistaking that, but it's really kind of cool how the old and the new have been merged to ensure Reading's baseball tradition lives on. These days, it's home to the College Woodbat League's Reading Colt 45s. You can actually watch every Reading Colt 45 game on YouTube live. There's no announcer or anything. You basically just hear people chatting in the stands. It's kind of entertaining if I'm being honest. That aside, if you didn't know any better and you looked at Kiger Field, you wouldn't think it was all that much. However, if you've ever spent any amount of time in Reading, you would know that Kiger Field is something in a very isolated, remote city that doesn't have much happening. Seriously, you get a scoop of Nutella Bonfire S'mores ice cream and a waffle cone at Taste and See Creamery. Maybe you drop in on the Shasta Historical Society and then you head over to this cozy little ballpark where folks have been watching games for more than 100 years now. That is pretty awesome. So we're going to do something fairly stupid and we're going to drive back into Southern Oregon. If you go north on Interstate 5, you find yourself in Medford, Oregon, and you will see what essentially is a road trip. Why I did this, I don't know. But in Medford, you're going to find Spiegelberg Stadium. It just may be the American high school football equivalent to the San Siro in Milan. Milan and Medford, mark that under cities I never thought I'd find myself comparing to one another. Anyway, North and South Medford high schools share Spiegelberg Stadium, with North being red and South being blue. It's sort of like AC and Inter Milan, one red, one blue. The stadium also has two covered grandstands, which is really kind of a rarity for high school facilities anywhere in America. Like San Siro, this is also a separate but equal. Each set of ultras has their own stand, meaning neither set of fan is forced to endure the elements when they clash. One side of the Spieg is fairly nicer than the other side. In fact, it's no contest. The main grandstand has some really cool balcony style seating on the top, which is a neat addition for this style of high school football stadium. The other side though, it just sort of juts into the street. It's a really odd look from the sky. Okay, they do use that spot. It's where they park buses and stuff, but it's just weird to see. You will also be happy to know the end zones have been properly marked. North is in the north end zone and the wood south is in the south end zone. You might take that for granted. You might think that is a formality, but this is Medford we're talking about. It would not have been surprising for them to mess this up somehow. All in all though, Spiegelberg Stadium is very remarkable. It's almost 90 years old now and it's still going strong. They have put money in renovating it to make sure it's still usable for this and future generations of North and South Medford High players. Meanwhile, they spent $60 million building that big ass stadium for Allen High School in Texas, and that thing began falling apart after 2 years. Sometimes newer, not better. The home of Adams State football, Rex Stadium in Alamosa, Colorado, has one of my favorite stadium features in all of North America. Students can actually live at the stadium. The residences at the Rex go along one side of the corner of the end zone, and you can watch the game from your on-campus housing. That is basically all I've ever wanted in life. Look, like maybe I go get a master's at Adams State just so I could live at the residence at the Rex. There's no way I would live at student housing. I'm far too old to be doing that shit. Anyway, life at the on-campus stadium housing isn't all sunshine and peaches. The residences at the Rex were closed for about a year and a half due to some bad plumbing. They have since been reopened. The less said about that other side of Rex Stadium and your view from the residences at the Rex, the better. I can already hear the stadium snobs now that I have included Fort Marcy Ballfield in Santa Fe, New Mexico on this list. Oh, this stadium is too ugly. It's too small. It's too this. It's too that. And you can take all of your complaints and stuff them in that big ass so-so-bra they burn down at Fort Marcy Ballfield each and every year, a Santa Fe tradition unlike any other. When they aren't burning oversized puppets, it is the home of the Santa Fe Fuego of the Pecos League. Fort Marcy Ballfield is also a WPA project. If I'm being honest, games are most likely a reason for the folks down in Santa Fe to come out and drink beer outside. A baseball game just happens to be taking place. Let's just pass some time. But damn, if you're gonna do it, there aren't many more scenic locations in a 1930s ballpark in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Here's the deal. You can look at what Fort Marcy Ballfield is and what it doesn't have and be snooty and snobby and exclusive. But when I look at it, what I see is minimalist beauty and history and just what baseball is at its core. And it also does a great job of reflecting the local landscape and local architecture. So now we get to the Stadiums of Vancouver Island portion of this video. I get the sense locals want to see each of these next two stadiums combined into one because it's basically all anyone talks about. There's just constant bickering that the 16-kilometer drive is too long. If everything was at one stadium, it would be so much better for Vancouver Island. Look, I know you didn't come here for petty Canadian bickering, so let's get to the stadiums. We start with what is today known as Starlight Stadium, or formerly West Hills, in Langford, British Columbia, completed in 2009 and expanded in 2019. These days, it is home to Pacific FC of the Canadian Premier League, as well as rugby. It also hosted a BC Lions preseason game this year. What Starlight Stadium manages to do well is blend in with its local surroundings. There are wood accents to it, and you have all of the nice Douglas fir trees around. Those surroundings, though, have caused a few issues with Starlight Stadium. It's sandwiched between two-lane roads, which is less than ideal from a traffic standpoint. There have also been attempts to expand it, which have struggled to gain any traction. There's issues with city officials. Again, I don't want to get into that here. However, now Pacific FC has mumbled about leaving. I don't really get that. Why would you want to leave this? Especially because Pacific FC is drawing in less than 5,000 people. They bring in less than the actual capacity here. So the idea they need a 10,000 seat stadium is wild. Of course, at 10,000 seats, Starlight could have Canadian women games. They could do other things here, but leaving this beauty, sheer foolishness. Starlight Stadium's loss would potentially be Royal Athletic Park's gain over in Victoria, 16 kilometers down the road. I suppose in theory these are rival facilities, but I just feel both are really cool in their own separate ways. As you can guess by the name, the facility dates back to when Canada was super into the British monarchy, where this nebulous affiliated with, I don't understand that whole relationship between the monarchy of England and Canada, but it's a thing, and it gives you stuff like Royal Athletic Park. It has always been designed to host a million different sports. The first version, or the grandstand of the first version, burned down in the 1960s, and what has been left in its place and developed over the years is a flexible, practical, multi-purpose venue where most things fit in it. Snugly, too, the setup for the Victoria Harbour Cats, the minor league baseball team that plays at Royal Athletic Park, it's a bit awkward in some places, but it's not deal-breaking by any means. There are far worse setups. The rectangular sports have one dedicated side, with the opposite available for bigger events. Last year saw the BC Lions host the Touchdown Pacific game, where like 14,000 people came out. They had temporary bleachers on one side. Those temporary bleachers were also set up in 2007 for the Under-20 World Cup. As far as the BC Lions are concerned, they could actually be using Royal Athletic Park in 2026 with the World Cup taking over BC Place. And given the MLS doesn't seem to think that BC Place is good enough for those Vancouver Whitecaps, maybe they move out here. Okay, so that's not happening. What did happen at Royal Athletic Park, it was a regular stop on those old-timey British tours that the soccer teams would take. So Chelsea FC played a game here once upon a time, Wolverhampton as well. Ultimately, I find Starlight Starlight Stadium in Langford and Royal Athletic Park in Victoria to be two very cool, very different stadiums. Seriously, Victoria, we're talking 16 kilometers apart. Stop acting like it's some arduous long drive like you're crossing the Atlas Mountains. It's not that hard. If you want to go to a Pacific FC game or you want to go to Royal Athletic Park, you can make the trip. Because neither is going to have everything. I am not a rodeo guy, nor am I a rodeo guy. Salinas, you know where I'm going here. Salinas Sports Complex in Salinas, California is a 17,000 seat rodeo venue dedicated to the rodeo, as locals call it. They've used it for Monster Jam. There's some auto racing down there as well, but mostly it's for the rodeo. I also believe the California Jaguars of the old American Soccer A-League played there around 1998. I could not find any visual proof of this. I know the Jaguars played at the Salinas Sports Complex. I feel like it was in the main stadium. I've read about it on Big Soccer, but it's never really cleared where at the Salinas Sports Complex they played. So if you know, let me know in the comments section below. Anyway, soccer as well as football, they won't be played at the main ground. They have since been moved to Rabobank Stadium next door. As for the Salinas Sports Complex itself, it's not even the biggest or arguably best rodeo stadium in the West. It's certainly no Pendleton Roundup Stadium, not close to Cheyenne Frontier Days, but I've always been drawn in to Selena Sports Complex because of the Homer Hayward Pavilion end. It adds a sense of closeness to everything, whereas at other rodeo stadiums, you just get a wash in a sea of seats that go with sprawl for days on end. The Homer Hayward Pavilion end, it looks like a cricket stand. It's the damnedest thing. So yeah, Salinas, there you go. The rodeo stadium on the list. And honestly, rodeo stadiums and sports being played in rodeo stadiums, that's another video for another time because there's some crazy stuff there. Way out in the suburbs of Calgary is Spruce Meadows, and that facility has quite a few horse-related elements as well, but there is a more traditional sporting component. Calgary FC call Atco Field their home, and this just looks like your quintessential English lower league stadium. It's very intimate. It has all of these other aspects that have been incorporated to make a soccer stadium as opposed to just building something new from the ground up. Because the entire complex of Spruce Meadows is heavily influenced by British design, you get a lot of those English style houses appearing behind one of the goals. The main stand has some serious lower league England vibes as well. I have a very deep appreciation of just how Atco Field has been turned into a very authentic feeling soccer stadium. I mean, apart from the side that faces away from the camera, which is just kind of open. They can't really do anything about that because there's still the horse component there. I mean, they can't put seats there just yet. It's a thing. This brings us to Spruce Meadows' other component being an equestrian oasis. When you zoom out and look at the Spruce Meadows complex, it's sprawling. There are multiple stadiums, and the most noticeable one is the International Ring at Spruce Meadows. It's a massive show jumping stadium that I would argue is maybe even more impressive than Atco Field, but I don't know the first thing about show jumping or equestrian, so you would have to let me know if that's true or not. To me personally though, it does look pretty freaking amazing. And just to have this unique, charming soccer stadium be a part of the larger complex, I do give credit to the family that owns both Calgary FC and Spruce Meadows for making everything work. Finally, we go way up north into Havre, Montana. When you look at Tilman Field on the campus of Montana State University Northern, it doesn't look like anything basically. Some turf, a small set of bleachers. You would easily dismiss this if you didn't know any better, but for the school, having this stadium means everything, and it's just a start. The NAIA school had been marooned in an off-campus high school stadium in Havre, which was not a great look for the program. I mean, no disrespect to Blue Pony Stadium, but it was not fitting even for an NAIA school. The lack of their own stadium and halfway decent facilities has been a huge hindrance to the Lights football program, which has struggled mightily in the win column over the years. There is an interesting tidbit about Tilman that should also be mentioned. This is the continental United States northernmost college football stadium. In fact, it's one of only two that sits above the 48-degree north parallel. the other being Minot State in North Dakota. Western Washington and their home of Civic Stadium would actually have been tops had they not disbanded the football program in 2009. But as it stands today, it is Havre and Tilman Field that is your northernmost continental United States college football stadium. Today, it's just turf and bleachers, but in the future, it's going to be part of a larger project for MSU Northern that will see the school have a full-fledged football complex. You may dismiss this as nothing more than some rinky-dink NAIA football stadium in the middle of nowhere. What I see though is the spirit of the West, someone trying to build something in a far-flung remote outpost to survive, to get by, and maybe even one day hopefully thrive. That is as West as you can possibly get. With all that said, go Lions, and thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to know about the story of the basketball league that banned tall players and committed one of America's biggest frauds, video upper left-hand corner of your screen, and to recall the indoor football game that was played outdoors, video lower left-hand corner. Until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis, this is The Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.